Greetings, everybody. It's Jim. This is the scenario of why people bought the game or would buy this game. And it definitely resembles the movie in a lot of ways. And this is funny because this game came out way before the movie did, of course. So it had nothing to go on. So this must have been this is kind of pretty cool in that regard that this happened way before the movie did. But there are some differences to the movie as well. You would think, presumably, that this is an all at once thing with tons of action. There is tons of action, but it's not all at once, and you'll see in a little bit why. And it's important not to do it all at once. Well, anyway, today I'm going to be talking to you about the scenario report for Starship Troopers Scenario 2. Now, if you remember my first scenario report, you'll remember that they gave you a squad to work with. Just one squad, 7 guys and a commander, bam, off to the races you go. Here, they throw you into the deep end. They give you a whole platoon, 6 squads, 2 commanders for each squad, and 2 commanders overall. It's freaking nuts. The scale is astronomical. So now the difference here is also there are going to be 15. This is the first time using the Terran control sheet. You have to track who has the high explosive rounds. Okay, those are missiles basically. And then you have to just mark them with, circle it. HE is what you got. We'll learn about the nukes and the hearing devices later. But for right now, we have to figure out those because they got a range of 6 and a strength of 9 to attack with. And of course, if your soldiers get wounded or killed or something like that, that high explosive device still might be active, and they might be able to salvage it with somebody else because you will want them and actually quite need them, not because of the power necessarily, also because of the range, the way the scenario works out. So that is interesting there. So let's take a look at the main board. So here we have the alien control pad, and it looks a lot more complicated than it is. All right. What makes it actually complicated are the rules themselves. I mean, this is one of the things that kind of worries me about the wargaming genre. It's like we got all these sections, subsections, and subsections. It's like they took 5 subsections to explain something that could have been concisely said in one paragraph. And I wonder, do we really need that? Leave me a comment down below. Defending it, just let me know. Do we absolutely need it? It's just the product of how wargaming was. Is it something that's still necessary? But anyway, let me tell you about how easy this actually is. The Q stands for Queen, the M stands for Master Brain, neither of which are used in this scenario. But A, B, C, D, and E surrounding the Queen is what we're really concerned with here. Basically, those are the brains, and they have a tunnel section attached to each one of them. It starts with a non-negotiable 10 hex straight shot right out. As you can see, every one of those has a 10 hex. Okay, but what is optional is they all have 1 5 hex section and 2 3 hex sections, all straight, that they can connect any way they want along the 10 hex line, and they can connect to each other as well. Okay, you can have a 5 and a 3 connect to make an 8. You can have all kinds of configurations. The only thing is you can't, as they say in Ghostbusters, cross the streams. All right, so basically one tunnel section from one brain cannot touch another. Simple, right? Now, in each complex, in each brain cell, there is 5 workers, 5 warriors, and a heavy weapon, along with an engineer that starts its turn somewhere along these tunnels. All right. The engineers don't have counters; they never come to the surface. They're always downstairs. All right, and that they're designated by a circle with a number there, designating what turn it is. Basically, on its turn, after they get done doing what I'll explain what they do in a little bit, but they can move around every turn all along the complex. There is no movement points, but you can just say, okay, he's here on turn 2, make another circle. And that's how it is. So what they do on their turn is basically at the beginning of the turn, they can make a breach. And this is where the anacrids can come out. And the anacrids, it doesn't matter if the breach is right next to the brain or all the way on the far end of the tunnel. They can get there and they pop out, and they can still use their movement points when they get on top. That's not that big of a deal, though, because they only move 1. And the heavy weapon moves 3. So as with that kind of movement, you can see how these tunnel complexes actually get kind of important to move these anacrids around. Now that the anacrids have written out their tunnel complex, it's time for the Terrans to establish their defensive perimeter and where it is. Within 5 hexes of the middle of the board, they place a perimeter marker. I use a yellow marker instead of the blue one that they give because there's going to be a lot of blue around here. All right, these counters are not going to stay in those stacks. We're playing with long range weapons now, and the Anacrid tripod heavy weapon basically has an 18 strength and it attacks an entire stack. All right, so basically that means even the strongest of my troops, that's 3-1. All right, so I don't want to get caught up in there. So it's going to be all the way around. But it's important to understand where the perimeter is, because for the Anacrid player, as long as one troop is in that perimeter, within 11 hexes of that perimeter, they are going to score 5 points a turn. If nothing is around that perimeter, the Marines get 10 points a turn. But it's going to be really tough, because here's an example why. Here's turn 1. Bam. All right, I have everybody move up. But the thing is, the Anacrids only had to just go neat, with 2 workers. And, I only could have just used 1. But basically, I put 2 out there. But basically, they score 5 points on turn 1. And the Marines, by the way, there's another little added rule for them now. They get an extra move. If you're used to something like Steve Jackson's Ogre GEV, the GEVs got an extra move at the end. So after they move and fire, they can actually move half their distance again. Okay, so that's nice maneuverability of showing what these Marines can do. But yeah, turn 1, and it's already 5-0. So here we have turn 2, and it's already another 5 points, easy peasy for the Anacrid player. I do bring 2 heavy weapons out early out there, not around the Marines, but away from them, because of the way they have to fire. See, the thing is, they fire first, then they move. So they already have to be in the thick of it to a point. But I don't want to bring them right where the Marines are, because, you're going to have so many rocket launchers shooting at them, they're just setting ducks and 3 points gone, right? So I want the Marines to come to the Anacrids, okay? Now, the thing is about the Marines coming over, even with their extra movement at the end, they're still going to have a hard time, especially these bottom left ones have to go over that hard ridge, because those roads aren't there. You're supposed to ignore those in this scenario, all right? So basically, they're going to have to climb through that rough terrain that's going to eat up 3 movement hexes a turn. But here's something also of note. Go back to the tunnel system. On the bottom left here, you can see that I have tunnels ready to go on that section right there already. All right, so I can just pop them up if they go over, I can pop them up, and then they have to come back down, and just wastes turn and time, which is really what this is all about for the Anacrid player. It is not about all the warriors coming all out at once and surrounding them. No, it's about them popping up, and this is actually how the drones, the workers, can be used, because they're just there, just like, tag me, go ahead, because they're sacrificial lambs, but they're trying to get those 5 points, every turn. So here we have turn 3, and still not a whole lot is happening. I do make a breach down here to keep these guys honest, and have a few warriors come out, because they were right there. And the thing is, if you got the Marines to attack, you might as well bring out your warriors and just try to attack them, I figured. So I brought out a few of them. You can only have a stack of 4. So I did what I could there. They did not roll very well at all. I did bring out a heavy weapon up on the far right there. I figured I see what happened. It did get disrupted, but it didn't get blown up. And that was with a whole bunch of missile weapons firing at it. 3-1, 4-1. I swear, in this game, I rolled a lot of 1s or 2s for misses and disruptions, not destroyeds. And of course, the other heavy weapons are getting ready to go to town here. With all these other Marines joining in. So that is the end of turn 3. So here we have turn 4. And it looks like the Anacrid player is still doing strong with another 5 points, because the Marines could not take care of all of them. They're all spread out, but they're all worried. I really worried about the heavy weapons a lot. Basically, that was most of my concentration, was taking those things out. Did take care of 1. The other 2 are still standing. 1 got a disrupted as a result, regardless of how many weapons were fired at it. It was pretty crazy. Had like a 5-1 odds, 6-1 odds. Roll a 1, go figure, instead of eliminating it. The Anacrids did do a heavy result on 1 figure. That was about it, though. But again, not a lot of action yet, because there wasn't any to warrant. It was another 5 points already for the Anacrids, and until those heavy weapons are gone, I don't think they're going to worry. So now it's turn 5, halfway through the game, and the Terran forces are finding out they're getting a lot of problems, even though they're not getting involved in a full-scale attack, which actually would benefit them. One of the things that's happening is some more worker units have been coming out on the top there, as you can see, and they're saying, deal with us. Oh, by the way, there's a heavy weapon to the bottom of us, and it is surrounded by, and I didn't plan this actually, it was surrounded by rough hexes, and you can't shoot missile weapons through a rough hex. I actually had to maneuver all these Marines that could take care of this later around that to get a shot at it. So it developed for a turn or two. So right there by itself, it could have scored 10 points before it was taken care of. Again, the game is all about being where the Marines are not. Pretty interesting. I did not expect it to be this kind of cool. And there is another heavy weapon down below. I just said, it's going to happen sooner or later. Keep these guys down here. Keep some of them busy so they can't come up. I was just trying to make chaos for the Marines. So turn 6 was more frustration for the Terrans as they could only clear one of the 3 heavy weapons on the board. Just could not do it. They got disrupted. They saved themselves from getting attacked the turn, but still no dice, and another 5 points for the Anacrids. Now, turn 7 opened my eyes to a tactic that really gives a problem to the Terrans, okay? I mean, I already knew the rule that Terrans can't shoot their rocket launchers into a hex containing one of their own. Makes sense. Okay. Of course, the Anacrids don't have that philosophy. They can fire willy-nilly, doesn't matter. And I utilize that to some degree. But the thing is about the Terrans, now you would think if there's a stack of Anacrids and there's one single soldier, well, the soldiers can just move that are in that hex and then they can just fire in it. Tally ho, here it comes, right? But what if that unit is with heavy damage or wounded in action? You still can't fire into it. So now the Anacrids can just stay right there and just take care of it, and you can't shoot that missile to take care of that stack. Now you've got to go in there full force, hand to hand, and try to dismantle the situation. And all the time while they're crunching on your friend, trying to make their heavy result into a killed in action result, right? So that's what happened there. And that was interesting. And again, they just couldn't do anything. I'm trying to stay honest over here, thinking more we're going to come out on the right-hand side. And that's another thing you got to try to gauge where as the Terran player, that they only got 11 units to bring out. 5 workers, 5 warriors, and a heavy weapon. So unless you take care of it all, you got to still stay there, because if you go over and take care of business somewhere else, then they can just go pop and they get their 5 points. So it's really, you got to spread it out. It's really interesting. So by the time turn 8 rolled around, the Anacrids have accumulated 5 points a turn every turn for a total of 35 points, plus a few extra points for the wounded that they caused the Terrans. That gave them about 41 points. Now, the Terrans were at 27 points, but it was close enough to have some hope that if they could take care of things this turn and really put a dent into everything, because the Anacrid forces and their reserves were really running low, that they would get that ever-coveted plus 10 points to get them over the top, because they absolutely need a few turns of that plus 10, because just the points alone from destroying the creatures, the most they'll ever get is 40 points. All right. So they absolutely need a few turns to get their plus 10. And this was the time. Alas, it was not to be. The turn 8 turned out to be a disaster for the Marines. The Anacrids just rolled like crazy, and they caused wounded in heavy stacks, which means, again, those rocket launchers could not fire into them and take care of business. And so they had to go into hand-to-hand. And by the time the game ended, it was just even worse. I mean, they just kept on rolling the Anacrids, and they just causing problems all over the place. But I had a lot. It ended up being 60-30. It was a rout. And I've heard that the bugs can't win in this scenario. Now, I know I played it light, but I thought I'd play it light for both sides. I'm trying to take pictures, learn the rules, go back and forth the rules, But I mean, I had a lot of fun with this because there was a lot of things. And the fun really comes down to the Anacrids, because you're causing all kinds of problems for the Marines. The Marines will totally wipe the floor with you if you just come out all at once. So I don't know. I hear a lot that the bugs can't win, but I wonder if that was because of the impressions of being a young, impetuous kid and just saying, boom, here, I want everything just like, like it says in the books, or in my case, the movie. But I had a lot of fun with this scenario, and I look forward to seeing the new toys in the future scenarios. But that is the scenario report. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next video.